Before we get, Anna Morris here. All right. Order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, September the 16th. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after the pledge, please remain standing for word prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's pray. Dear God, we do thank you for all you've done for us. Thank you for the privilege to be here this evening. We just ask that you would guide and direct in these proceedings, that Lord, you would be, that you would give us wisdom. Lord, help us to do things properly and in order. And that, Father, that as we do this, that, Lord, we just ask that you would watch over our public safety people, Lord, the police, the fire departments. We thank you for their service and what they do. We just pray, Father, that you guide and direct in all we do this evening. In Christ's name, amen. You may be seated. Roll call.
Bedford. Here. Campbell.
Here.
Gibson. Here. Hill.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
Lexi.
Here.
Manship. Here. Moan. Absent. And Williams.
Here.
He's on.
He's on one. All right, we do have a quorum, and just for the record, Mr. Williams is attending the meeting virtually tonight. All right, all of you should have received copies of the minutes from our last regular meeting on August the 19th. Do I have a motion? Move to approve. Motion by Mr. Lexi, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Betron. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, then roll call on the minutes.
Bedford. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship. Aye. And Williams.
Abstain.
Minutes are approved on a vote of 7-0 with one abstention. Reports, Corporation Council.
Nothing to report.
Name of the controller at this time?
Not till later.
All right. Committee and board reports, all of you should have received copies of my report from the last RDC meeting. If you have any questions, please let me know. Any other committee or board reports? Seeing none, then at this time, Mr. Mark St. John, City Engineer.
Good evening, as Mr. Campbell said, I'm Mark St. John, I'm the City Engineer. I'm here to present you the ADA Transition Plan update. As Greenwood receives federal funds, we are required to have an ADA transition plan. All of our facilities and programs must meet ADA standards. Those that don't must be identified in the plan along with a timeline and cost to bring them up to compliance. The plan also assigns an ADA coordinator, who is me, who can receive field complaints about ADA issues. This plan has been publicly posted, has been available for comment over the last month. It's also been to the other boards that hold and maintain property in Greenwood, and it will eventually be adopted by Common Council again. So happy to answer any questions you may have about the ADA transition plan update.
Are there any questions for Mr. St. John? Thank you. All right, this is an opportunity that we set aside for members of the audience to address the council concerning items that are on tonight's agenda. So if you'd like to do so, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. There is a 5-minute time limit per person and a 20-minute time limit per topic. And I believe we have a young lady here that we're going to let go first.
I'll just listen to
Sir, this young lady is going to go first.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Katie Green. I'm 22 years old and I live at 795 Newark Court. I participate in Special Olympics in sports like softball, basketball, swimming, track, and cross country. I use Freedom Park often. Even though I have special needs, I can understand that putting a road through the middle of the park is a stupid idea. You should vote no on putting a road through the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, next.
Good evening, Mark Webb, 405 Leo Lane, here in Greenwood, Indiana. We are here tonight to oppose the passage of the comprehensive plan in its current form. A document which guides city development for the next 20 years should be divided into multiple sections for individual review and approval, providing ample opportunity for discussion between the residents of Greenwood and the Common Council. In addition to our concerns about the comprehensive plan tonight, we question why the planning department is seeking additional authority under the comprehensive plan. Time is limited, so we will limit our comments to section 6, infrastructure, and in particular, goal number 5, which states new development to make additional roadway connections. Under this section, the planning department intends to make the case that it needs greater authority to connect roads and reduce congestion between the neighborhoods when new developments or redevelopment is occurring. This additional authority will be accomplished by adding language to the UDO, which requires street connections during development. For those in the audience who may not know, the UDO is a series of laws in the form of ordinances which govern subdivision and street development, among other things, within the city of Greenwood. It should be noted that on tonight's agenda, the comprehensive plan and the UDO will be considered simultaneously with a single vote. To support our concerns about increasing the staff's authority, we have provided the following to the council to consider. Example 1. Under goal number 5, the Planning Commission states the UDO may need stronger language to give staff more power for enforcement. To these goals, we ask the council to consider, does the council actually find that staff needs greater authority to do its job? And against whom or what does the planning department need additional authority or power? The Common Council, developers, who? In the second example, empowered by the prior example, the planning department will require what they call stub street connections to tie road networks and subdivisions together, despite the following. The big ideas from the online survey continued in the comprehensive plan on page 40, which states that connections between new and existing developments are not desired by residents in existing neighborhoods. The complete streets policy, which emphasizes safety for all users traveling within and outside of the community, and states there is no single standard that fits the needs of Greenwood, as even individual neighborhoods have separate needs. We propose that without public oversight from the Common Council, the unique and rich heritage of Greenwood neighborhoods will dissolve into mediocrity. Neighborhoods will be divided by increased traffic circulating within them, preventing neighbors from getting together and discussing everyday things. For example 3, if we may approach, we have a demonstrative aid we'd like to hand to the Common Council.
Be fun.
For members of the audience who were not here at the August 26th meeting of the Planning Commission, an open question remains concerning whether or not a fire truck is a vehicle. To help resolve this question, we have provided each council member with a toy fire truck. For reference, while we read the definition of a fire truck from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the dictionary states, and I quote, "A fire truck is a vehicle that has equipment for fighting fires." From this definition, it is clear that a fire truck is indeed a vehicle.
You have 1 minute.
While we make no accusations tonight as to whether the planning director was ignorant, making poor choices, or being malicious in his questions about fire trucks, however, we ask the council to hold on to these fire trucks as reminders of what can happen when too much power is placed in the hands of a single individual. The residents of Greenwood need and desire more public oversight with the system of checks and balances for important planning and zoning decisions. We ask the Common Council to delay approval of this plan until all areas of concern are resolved with the residents of Greenwood. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm James Workman. I'm here tonight to represent a group of concerned citizens from multiple neighborhoods on areas within Greenwood, the same topic that this young lady talked about. So we've taken a close look at the overall comprehensive plan, and we generally support it. But there's just one section that we do not like, and that is basically, the connection, the stop 18 from Averett Road to Honey Creek Road. Some of the key points around that, the comprehensive plan, once it's adopted, states that it will serve as an official policy guide for Greenwood. It will inform decisions made by staff, elected officials, and appointed boards and commissions regarding zoning and development proposals. We believe it's crucial for you before adoption, to address this significant issue of the proposed construction of Stop 18
My wife wants a camper.
between Hunting Creek Road and Freedom.
See that?
So, excuse me, if you're online, please mute your microphone.
Through Freedom Park, which effectively splits the park in half. We voiced our concern with the planning commission last Monday, but no changes were made. Objections to Stop 18 through Freedom Park was one of the topic of major concern during the review period. Yet despite this clear and overwhelming feedback, road construction remains in the plan. Was our feedback overlooked or just ignored? I don't know. This was part of the previous plan from 1988, according to what the city told us. A lot has changed in the last 36 years. I've aged just a little bit. But there's so much that's changed in Greenwood. It's become so much better. A lot of things from 1988 do not apply now. So I want to restate, a proposal from 88 doesn't mean it's still a good proposal, desirable proposal, or a needed proposal. What's the demand? Is the demand still there? There's lots of reasons that have been raised by residents, and some are going to talk about it here. Key one for me is safety. You run a road through a park. How is that safe? There's no road going through it right now. Zero chance of a child getting hit chasing a ball onto the road from the soccer fields there. All it takes is one child. If one child gets hit, injured, or killed, it's not worth the 2 seconds that you save from driving around to the entrance. The necessity, do we really need it? And then exploring the alternatives. There's multiple alternatives that I'm not sure were looked into thoroughly. So my request is, given these concerns, we respectfully request your support to remove the completion of Stop 18 through Freedom Park from the comprehensive plan before recommendation to adopt it as given. Let's keep our parks safe for the children and not split it with the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Brooke Cuddy. I live at 1492 Blank Court, and I'm here to discuss the safety aspect, which is a tag along to what James has just been spoken about. So the primary reason for extending Stop 18 is to create another east-west road to reduce traffic congestion. The proposal to develop a road through the park is one of several city solutions to this effort. With the recent development of April Drive and the existing Cutsinger Road within a half mile of each other, both running east to west, we challenge whether the cost of this effort is justified. Running this road through the park, essentially splitting it in half, jeopardizes the safety and the quality of this park. The park, quote, serves as a major regional draw, as the plan clearly states, which suggests to me the very need to preserve its integrity. My husband and I are frequent patrons to this park with our 4 young children. We see walkers with and without dogs, runners of all ages going around the pond and the park's perimeter, screenless play on the playgrounds, courts, fields by people of all ages, kids riding scooters and bikes, or just enjoying the open green spaces with their friends and families. Not to mention the abutting middle school in their use of their park for their athletic programs. One of the theme objectives within this comprehensive plan is to address existing pedestrian, traffic, and road safety concerns. The proposed road would run alongside an existing trail. It would abut a soccer field, the entrance to a dog park, and a large open area where we've seen summer camp kids at play. We believe that running an east-west road through this park aimed at rerouting traffic into this space and ultimately solve congestion complaints creates new and significant risks and concerns for citizen safety. Running the road next to a soccer field will certainly create multiple high-risk opportunities for cars to encounter soccer balls and players on the road. Running the road between existing parking and where patrons take their dogs to the dog park will create yet another safety hazard where one didn't exist previously. And running a road next to where countless kids play, and which is also utilized by the nearby middle school, is an unmitigated safety risk and concern echoed by every Greenwood citizen we've talked to on the matter. It's also been stated that the proposed road design would be curvy to attempt to reduce and control speed. The aim defeats the purpose of the building in east-west throughway street to improve the flow of traffic elsewhere. If the through street is run through the park, where parks typically close during the late hours, to control for safety and crime, it will be impossible to close the park during those late hours. With curvy roads being seen as a thrilling challenge to many and not just to teenage boys, there exist public concerns and problems for risks related to racing. This, along with the anticipated increase in crime rates, would warrant additional police resources to patrol it. Another theme objective within the comprehensive plan is to preserve and protect Greenwood's natural areas and open spaces. The plan discusses that most of the open spaces are part of Greenwood City Parks, support passive recreation, which is a non-motorized recreational activities, and contribute to the character of Greenwood. The extension of Stop 18 through the open green space within this park directly conflicts with these objectives, and we feel passionate about it. Attempts to reroute traffic through a newly developed road along the walking path would take away from the most important value of the park, which is to offer a natural, quiet, and relaxing and safe place to go. We understand that bringing events to Greenwood is one of the goals of the park department. For example, the pickleball courts and baseball diamonds. Yep. In this vein, there were several weekend events during the summer where Freedom Park was used for walks and runs to use the path. Some of those hosts have expressed concerns for a throughway being constructed alongside the path with their patrons used during these events. It's clear that building an east-west throughway street through Freedom Park will create safety hazards where none existed before. Given the fact that there are more east-west roads in the area available now than what was available previously, running this through Fair Street through Freedom Park would undoubtedly do more harm in the community than good. Situations change and we need to respond accordingly. As the need for this particular throughway is now minimal, I would ask that in your position, you recommend the removal of completion of Stop 18 through Freedom Park due to the safety concerns it creates and the negative impact on the quality of the park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Vince Matthews, and I'm here to address the Stop 18 road through Freedom Park as well. So first of all, I just want to make a comment like Jim, and I think the comprehensive plan was well done, well written, but we just have a couple of concerns with it. Of course, Stop 18 road through the park is the one that we're going to address today. So the concept of needs versus wants. That's a concept that I think most people are familiar with, especially when they do their finances. They have to split it into needs and wants. And this seems to be in play not only when you consider your finances, but it seems to be in play in some of the departments on this topic as well. There does not appear to be a need for running a through road through Freedom Park. However, certain departments in the city still would like to see this done. As pointed out at the Planning Commission meeting last Monday, there have been a lot of opportunities for the public to review the proposed comprehensive plan. However, what was not pointed out to them during the meeting was that objection to running Stop 18 through Freedom Park was one of the largest number of comments that was received during the reviews that were conducted. Part of the reason for reviewing the comprehensive plan, which of course you know is written in 2007, is to ensure that it's still appropriate. The proposed comprehensive plan states that communities are dynamic and change will continue to occur. Eliminating plans to run Stop 18 through the park is adapting to these changes that have occurred, like the completion of April Drive that I'm sure you've seen, and also changes that are on the plan to occur, which is the addition of several roundabouts. Most citizens of Greenwood do not want Stop 18 to run through the park. There are also, to our knowledge, no traffic studies that have been completed that justify completing Stop 18 through the park, especially when compared to the safety risk that it would cause. The fact is, there are already 2 east-west through roads within approximately 1/4 mile of the proposed Stop 18 road. It's April Drive rather to the north, and Cutzinger Road to the south. Those roads already exist, and they're within 1/4 mile of the proposed Stop 18 road through the park. Roundabouts are also proposed to be added to April Drive and Cutzinger Road at Honey Creek Road to the west and Avert Road to the east. So the addition of these 4 roundabouts will facilitate the traffic east-west flow and further decrease the need to run Stop 18 through the park. We also see that it's being proposed to add a roundabout to both ends of the proposed Stop 18 section running through the park, one at Honey Creek Road and one at Avert Road. Although the proposed Stop 18 road type was decreased in the plan from a major collector to a minor collector, if you add roundabouts on both ends of the Stop 18 road, that's just going to facilitate traffic running through the park. Finally, with running Stop 18 through Freedom Park, there will be 3 collector and 3 arterial east-west roads located between Honey Creek Road and Avert Road that lie from Smith Valley to the north and Stones Crossing to the south, which is about a 2-mile distance. This degree of east-west road density does not exist in any other part. If you look at the traffic shown on
You have
the
1 minute.
comprehensive plan, I don't know why there is such a density of east-west traffic or roads requested in that area. So although it may be a want on the city's part to construct a Stop 18 road through Freedom Park, there does not appear to be a need. And for this reason, we request that the completion of Stop 18 through Freedom Park be removed from the comprehensive plan, and that alternative approaches need to be considered instead. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Before we go any further, just so you'll know, there's about 2 minutes left in the 20-minute time limit. So if both of you want to speak, you need to keep yours short, and if you only, it's up to you 2 to decide, but you only have about a little over 2 minutes.
And I request that the time be extended.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ifedayo Omotayo. Ifedayo means love comes with joy, and Omotayo means children worthy of joy. If a lot of people have spoken about safety, and we're all very concerned about our children, we would like to protect our children. I would like to give some alternative to the construction of this road. It has been stated that the park is underutilized, and it requires a new road. Myself and my children will go to this park every single day. So which means it's being used by a lot of people. And the access to this park from the west will easily be increased by building a path from the Honey Creek Road into the park, which will eliminate the need for building this road. It has been stated that there's a no parking close enough to the soccer field. It's not true. Building a short road from the Cutzinger Road near the fire station to a park lot nearby will give closer access to the soccer field and the fish pond. Another approach.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. Another approach that we should use is the storm drain infrastructure that is currently in place. So we will build to extend the road from the stop at entrance of the park to near the pedestrian overpass, and the constructing a parking lot in this location. So building a path from Britain North and connecting it to the existing path in northwest corner of the Freedom Park will also enable easy access to a new neighborhood. Finally, there are several ways access to Freedom Park could be improved without running through the park. So alternative to this road construction should be take a serious look at. Thank you very much.
You have about 5 seconds if you want to tell us whether
Can
you're
I
for or
extend it
against it.
just maybe 30 seconds? I
Okay.
swear, I don't have anything prepared. I just am talking to you, from my mom heart.
All right, go ahead.
The road is gonna be directly behind my house. And, because I'm on Margate Drive. So the road through the park, obviously I can talk about the annoyance of the sound, the annoyance of the extra traffic, but I'm talking to you from my mom heart and saying that I'm nervous of my son, who's young and who plays ball, and it just makes me concerned that he might, he's playing ball all the time, he's a great ball player, and I just can picture in my head him accidentally throwing the ball too hard, and it hit that road, and just something terrible could happen. So I'm just really talking to you from my heart, just, I'm a mom, so I really want you guys to reconsider. I also have dogs too,
All right,
and,
your time is up. The
Okay.
Good news
Let her
is,
finish.
excuse me. The good news is that tonight, no vote will be taken. It will come before the council 2 more times, and each time it's on the agenda, you will have another 20 minutes. So you can come back to our next meeting,
I
if you
wish I
so
would
desire, and talk for 20 minutes, well, 5
I
minutes.
will, I
All
will
right?
definitely, I have a lot to talk about.
All right,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Would like to address the council concerning another topic that is on tonight's agenda. All right, seeing none, then moving on, ordinances and resolutions. There are none under notice of intent to consider first reading or second reading. So new business, introduction to new ordinances and resolutions, resolution 2409.
The resolution of the Greenwood Common Council waiving noncompliance of TLP 1175 Collins LLC regarding its failure to timely file its application for deduction from assessed valuation of structures in economic revitalization areas in 2024, pay 2025, compliance with statement of benefits, sponsored by Gibson.
Right, this is scheduled for a public hearing. Open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against resolution 2409, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
I am Dale Martin, and I must confess that I do make killer barbecue ribs, and as such, I would like to not give my address. I note that your own addresses, when sent through a public record request.
Sorry, if you're not going to give your address, you're not allowed to speak.
I would ask that you have extensions if your address is not available for public request, it's been denied. I think the citizens should have the same rights that you
I'm
do.
sure you've never asked me for my address.
I have put in the public request as Mr. Hudson can ask. Hey,
But if you're not going to give your address, you cannot speak.
I live in Greenwood, Indiana. I would like to speak against the county.
I'm sorry, that is not an address. So with that, without your address,
The address.
you cannot speak. Sit down, Mr. Martin. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against resolution 2409?
Council, this is Alexis Souter with KSM Location Advisors. Would it be appropriate for me to speak now as I'm here to represent Trade Lane Property Group?
No, wait till after the public hearing.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Close the public hearing. Anybody online you wish to address this?
Yes, that would be me, Alexis Souter. I'm a director with KSM Location Advisors, here representing Trade Lane Property Group this evening. There are a couple of other individuals who are also online as well. Elena Salazar, who's the director, apologies, of property management, and Mike Myers, who is a senior vice president and market officer overseeing this property here in Greenwood on behalf of Trade Lane Properties. we, as you may recall, we were actually involved on the front end of this abatement negotiation when the property was owned by Scannell Development.
Excuse me, I was just informed that you did not give us your address. If you would do so, please.
Sure. KSM Location Advisors, 800 East 96th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46240.
Thank you.
So yes, as I was saying, apologies. We actually were involved in negotiating and implementing the real property tax abatement on this property when it was originally being developed by Scannell Development Group. That property has since traded hands to Trade Lane Properties. Again, I've got Elena Salazar and Mike Myers here on the Zoom call as well. But Trade Lane they're a privately held real estate investment company. They are headquartered in Chicago. Elena joins us from Chicago, Mike from Cincinnati. They focus on primarily industrial real estate as this property at 1175 Collins Road, I know you all are familiar with, is. So they acquire, they develop, they redevelop, and manage, again, primarily industrial real estate. So the reason that we've had this, that we've got this waiver of non-compliance on the docket here this evening, as can commonly happen in the trading of ownership and the change in ownership of this particular property, just kind of some coincidental timing. This is Trade Lane's first property that they have owned here in the state of Indiana, and as you, council, are familiar, there are some nuances associated with property taxes here in the state of Indiana. And then this one involving a property tax abatement. So that would be the reason that those filings were initially missed. Those have since been made and have been rectified. They have engaged KSM Location Advisors moving forward to appropriately complete and timely file these, any future 322s that may come down the road and any future CF1 forms. With that said, if there are any questions, the three of us here on the line are more than happy to answer those.
All right, any questions from the council? All right, thank you very much. All right, next, ordinance 2424.
An ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 6, Section 2-38 of the Greenwood Municipal Code, designating no parking on the north side of Cutsinger Road from the intersection of Cutsinger Road and McCormick Drive to a point approximately 650 feet, sponsored by Lexi.
Again, Mark St. John, city engineer. This is along Cutsinger Road, where Cutsinger Road fronts Freedom Park. We've noticed there's a large amount of people who are parking along Cutsinger Road, often to get in and use the trail, to fish at the pond, likely because there's not additional access from the west. But we are asking that you place this no parking ordinance. It's really not safe for people parking along the side of a roadway such as Cutsinger.
All right, any questions for Mr. St. John? Thank you. Ordinance number 2405. I'm sorry, 2425.
An ordinance amending the 2024 salary ordinance, Common Council Ordinance number 2333, to change the classification of the assistant airport manager position in Department of Aviation, sponsored by Gibson.
Anybody want to talk to us about this one?
Good evening, council. Lisa Betts, Director of Human Resources, 300 South Madison Avenue, Greenwood, Indiana, 46142. This evening, I bring to you a salary ordinance amendment for the Assistant Airport Manager. We recently had received Fair Labor Standards Act changes to salary. So for the exempt employees, I took all the job descriptions and the salary ordinance and went through them all to review them. And we had to have an update for the Assistant Airport Manager to be an exempt position. And that does throw into the salary amounts, which are salaried ordinance right now. We don't have to do an appropriation or change any salary amounts. And we will also potentially, depending on what happens with the 2025 salary ordinance, we would not have to change any of that. So it's strictly just changing the classification from non-exempt to exempt.
All right, any questions from Ms. Best? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ordinance 2426.
An ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, and city utilities for the year 2025, sponsored by Gibson.
Mr. Wright, do you want to talk about this now or just save it for later?
You want to do all the budget ones all together?
Yeah, all right. Ordinance 2427.
Oh, an ordinance for appropriations and tax rates for the 2025 budget year. And I think I read the wrong one. I think I read that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ordinance 2426.
An ordinance for appropriations and tax rates for the 2025 budget year, sponsored by Gibson.
An ordinance 2427.
An ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, and city utilities for the year 2025.
Ordinance 2428.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the city judge of the city of Greenwood for the year 2025.
And 2429.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the common council of the city of Greenwood for the year 2025.
And 2430.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the mayor of the city of Greenwood for the year 2025.
2431.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the clerk of the city of Greenwood for the year 2025.
Resolution 2410.
Resolution approving the adoption of the city of Greenwood, Indiana's Americans with Disabilities Act updated transition plan, sponsored by Gibson.
Mr. St. John, any more you'd like to say about this?
No, sir. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, there is a request for suspension of the rules through second reading. So I entertain a request for suspension through first reading. Motion by Ms. Gibson, second. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on suspension? Hearing none, then roll call. Suspension of the rules through first reading, resolution 2410.
Betron. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
And Williams.
Aye.
Rules are suspended on a vote of 8-0. Do I have a motion for first reading? Motion by Ms. Gibson, second. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call. Resolution 2410, first reading.
Campbell.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
And Betron. Aye.
Resolution 2410 passes first reading 8-0. Before we move on, could you explain to us the urgency on this?
Yes, so we are required to regularly update this. It's not been updated, I think, since 2020, and it's something the city would like to have updated by the end of the fiscal year.
All right, I have a motion for suspension through second reading. Motion Ms. Gibson, second. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on suspension? Roll call on suspension of the rules through second reading, resolution 2410.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Betron. Aye. And Campbell.
Aye. Rules are suspended on a vote of 8-0. Motion on second reading. Motion by Ms. Gibson. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion? Roll call, resolution 2410, second reading.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Betron. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
And Gibson.
Aye.
Resolution 2410 passes second reading 8-0. Thank you, Mr. St. John. Resolution 2411.
A resolution of the Greenwood Common Council adopt and approve a comprehensive plan for the city of Greenwood in accordance with the provisions of Indiana Code 36-7-4-500, sponsored by Campbell and Gibson.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Adam Pieper. I'm a community planner with HWC Engineering. Business address is 135 North Pennsylvania Street, Suite 2800, Indianapolis, Indiana 46204. Okay, just want to introduce the comprehensive plan that we've obviously already heard some about this evening. This process started back in August of 2023 with the formation of a project steering committee that is multiple times through this process. September of last year was our big initial community engagement push that included a community workshop at the library, as well as some meetings around town. We were at the farmer's market, at a high school football game, as well as additional online engagement opportunities through a community survey and interactive mapping exercise. We took all of that information, as well as some data analysis that we conducted and worked through several work sessions with the project steering committee to develop a preliminary set of goals and strategies. Those were presented in February of this year at what we call the Big Ideas Open House to share those with the community and get their input, and made a series of amendments coming out of that meeting and subsequent work sessions with the project steering committee before we created the initial draft of the comprehensive plan, shared that with staff and the steering committee, made more refinements before sharing that with the broader community, and had a public presentation again just across the street at the library in July of this year. Made another set of amendments before we created the adoption draft just last month. And then we were before the Advisory Plan Commission just last Monday, where they conducted the public hearing and forwarded a favorable recommendation to you all this evening. Again, the community engagement through this process really just tried to get the word out and get as many people involved as we could. I think we were certainly successful in those efforts, and also had some help from the Daily Journal raising awareness of the process and specific events. I won't go through all the plan, but we'll generally say it's organized into 11 chapters plus a couple appendices. Chapters 1 through 4 are really the purpose, process, and background, but it's chapters 5 through 9 that are the topic focus and organized around the city's 4 pillars, with the addition of a land use element. Each of those chapters includes a number of goals and then subsequent strategies and action items to help give the plan day-to-day life. Chapter 10 is focus areas that identify 6 areas across the city because of their importance, either existing or potential for future development, and could be used to accomplish a number of plan goals. So those include more detailed recommendations in terms of land use, transportation and infrastructure investment, quality of life amenities, and character recommendations. The implementation chapter talks about how the plan should be used by you all, by staff, by the planning commission, and certainly residents and developers, property owners as well, and how the plan should be monitored and potentially updated as time progresses. Like I said, the appendices, the existing conditions report and engagement report go into a little more detail as compared to chapters 3 and 4 with that background analysis and then more detailed findings of those numerous outreach efforts. Just to touch on a couple of changes that have occurred since I was last here, which was at your meeting last month, some of the changes to that initial public draft. One of the things in an earlier iteration of this future land use map, those 6 focus areas were kind of grayed out and just referred to that later chapter. Upon the recommendation of staff, we've removed that to reflect that underlying land use recommendation. So that the map looks a little different. And then I will say, just more recently, we made a change. We had an inaccurate boundary on the airport area, which is 3 around here. Kind of where I just put that. So a minor change there. In terms of the future thoroughfare map, want to just briefly address some of the comments earlier this evening that certainly happened to answer more specific questions. Obviously, this is a long-range guide, future-looking, and as development or redevelopment would occur, the future thoroughfare map comes into play, and that then the developer or property owner would be required to dedicate right-of-way in conjunction with the proposed functional classification In some cases, make the improvements, and others dedicate right away to continue the build out of a safe and efficient transportation network. So some of these recommendations are going to be dependent on if development happens in terms of timing. Other improvements where there is existing city right of way will happen at the discretion of you all in terms of prioritizing and budgeting projects, and then also the city's ability to acquire outside funding for some of these. So in all of these cases, there is going to need to be an additional level of analysis, study, and engineering done to these. It's not to suggest a road is going to be go out and be built based on these lines or dash lines on this map. We certainly understand and would encourage additional study. I will also point out, just specific to Stop 18, as was mentioned, it has been or is in the city's current comprehensive plan. That's not necessarily why it is it's reflected on this map. Part of that is because part of that roadway is already there. Through discussions with staff, we also understand that, again, there is interest in improving access to the park. I will say, though, the current conference plan identifies a future Stop 18 extension as a secondary arterial, which is a relatively higher classification of roadway. And our recommendation, or the recommendation in this plan, is for any future Stop 18 extension to be a minor collector. So kind of, still providing a connection, but de-emphasizing its kind of hierarchy in that network. And then finally, the future trail system map. One of the more recent changes to this was, again, on the request of staff. This map identifies both existing trail facilities as well as proposed future corridors. And in some cases, what we've done is gone back and draw a proposed trail corridor over where there is an existing trail. And that is because there may be a trail only on one side of that street, and the desire is to have a shared use facility on both sides. Or it could be an 8-foot facility where a 10 or 12-foot facility is requested, or it could be a facility immediately adjacent to the curb. And should future improvements be made to that roadway, looking at creating a buffer strip between the curb and the adjacent shared use facility. So just one change to point out there. Just a couple other edits to note. Like I said, I just hit those 2 bullet points there. But we incorporated some additional photos. Planning department advertised and conducted a photo contest. So there were a number of submissions from residents. So those photos are now featured in the plan. An earlier iteration under the strategy. So if you look at the top right, sorry, it's a little small. Each strategy includes a number of action steps. The previous iteration kind of had a time frame or a relative priority for the strategy as a whole and potential implementation partners. With staff's help, we have identified a relative time frame and then an implementation need for each individual action item. We added some language to the quality of life chapter related to additional pedestrian facility and pedestrian crossing treatment recommendations. In the public safety chapter, we added a map that identifies existing public safety siren locations and the buffers or the areas they essentially cover. Those are the green circles on the map, and then potential future locations for additional sirens as development continues in those areas. And then those red circles would be the buffers served by those new sirens to show complete or near complete coverage over the city. And then finally, there were just a few minor edits to make some style and clarity, consistency across the focus area maps. So I know you have a lot to talk about after this. So I will end there, but again, happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions at this time from the council? Right. Mr. Nelson, you have something you want to say?
Mostly just here if there's any questions on this process that's worth battling throughout the comprehensive planning process. It's been over a year process that we've been working on this, so we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for either gentleman? All right, thank you both. Appreciate it. All right, resolution 2412.
Resolution of the Greenwood Common Council petition for appeal of relief from property tax levy limitations sponsored by Bill Gibson.
All right. All right, miscellaneous business. This is the second opportunity we set aside for public comment, this time concerning items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if you'd like to speak to the council, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Dwight Howard, and I live at 318 North Emerson Avenue in Greenwood, Indiana. Before I get started, I would like to apologize to Mrs.
I'm sorry,
Manship.
I hate to interrupt you, but want to make sure that we're all clear. There's a 5-minute time limit per person and a 20-minute time limit per topic.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
All right, well, I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
I would like to apologize to Mrs. Manship and Mrs. Patron because you were not on the council when the issue that I'm talking about tonight came up. But I do have a question I'd like to pose to the council. Could somebody please tell me where Oliver Springs is located on North Emerson Avenue?
This is not a question and answer session. If you have information you'd like to give us, please.
Well, because it's a non-existent community, okay? Somehow, out of the clear blue sky now, they have put up Maverick. I have no idea where this name came from or who's behind it. But I have documents in my hand from July 11, 2022 to February of 2023. I have 11 sets of documents presented to the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the City Council. These documents were pertaining to site plans, building elevations, overall site dimension plans, the primary plat, and the final plat. I also have 3 sets of documents that are available on the internet, where the Garrett Company is boasting about Oliver Springs. Oliver Springs does not exist. So therefore, my question is, all these legal documents that were presented to the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and to the City Council are now invalid. Because everything that was a legal document that was presented to these factions of Greenwood all state Oliver Springs. And now Oliver Springs has disappeared. And I have a question of Willie, is that legal? I mean, can he just change the name without notifications? Or how about legal documents? Have legal documents been presented on site plans, building elevation, to the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, or to the council with the name of Maverick on it? I don't think you have it, because I think they are non-existent. They are so bold that if you go out there to the storage units, they've created a Y now where they have a construction. Well, because of law, they have to have posted on there the legal description of the project and what is going on. There are 2 documents still to this day, because I took pictures of them last night with my phone. Oliver Springs. Where is Oliver Springs? My gosh, they got a great big stone wall out in front that says Maverick. They advertise as Maverick. Where did Maverick come from? Do you have the legal documents to state Maverick on them? All you've got is Oliver Springs. And I've got the copies of it right here. You know, I think that, you know, somebody would say, well, that's a minute point. Well, what do we do then? Is the government just scratching out the name Oliver Springs on these legal forms and putting Maverick? I don't think the government should operate like that. But, you know, I'm here not only by myself, but I'm representing my neighbors, because my neighbors and I have gone through hell, to speak the truth, with this project. And now they're pulling this on us.
you know, what's the purpose of it? You know, I had said on July 18, 2022, we had 7 people from the neighborhood come down here and speak. They were totally ignored, and the council just basically, you know, said, hey, we're gonna do what we wanna do. It was a bad idea, it's still a bad idea,
Yeah,
but
1
now we're
minute.
stuck with it. And I just wanna know, where is the pipe, the legal forms that state Maverick on it? You don't have it. This is a switcheroo that's taking place. And one thing that I wanna talk about is retaliation. It does exist in this town because I was a victim of retaliation. Because when they started this project, they built a wall. A dirt wall was 22 feet from the edge of my house. And they were running these great big graders, John Deere land graders, up on top of it. The objective there was to ruin the crawl space of my house. But you know, they built houses in 1962. They don't build them like that nowadays. I took pictures of the crawl space, but it did survive. And thankful to a person that was on the council at that time, he contacted the president of the company and got it
Sir,
stopped.
Your time is up. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time concerning items not on tonight's agenda?
Hello, my name is Robert Strack. I live at 1348 States Drive, and I want to talk about, well, Deer Lane, Green Valley, and Faith. You guys passed an ordinance saying that those roads could not be extended into our neighborhoods. And I realize you guys made it very clear what you wanted, and it was very clear that it was ignored. But I want to offer a possible solution to sewage that happened at that advisory plan meeting on the 26th. You can either change the UDO or change the ordinance to read something simple enough that they can understand it. Say something like this, or however you want to word it. The Walker Commons development cannot make a road that connects to or lines up with Leah Lane, Green Valley, or Faith. Maybe they can understand that. I don't know. They obviously didn't understand what you guys did earlier. Okay. During that meeting, this is what really torques me off. Mr. Hopper, they threw you under the bus, I guess. But during the meeting, you stated at the beginning of when you were talking about this that you said something to the effect of this council passed that ordinance and we don't have to abide by it. But then you talked for another 2 or 3 minutes explaining your point of view. You were very clear and you were very accurate and you made it very clear what needed to be done. But Dave Nelson only quoted the very first part of that in that meeting. You guys all need to watch this video. It's amazing. So you sounded like a total villain. You sounded like you were radical, which you were not. You were actually listening to people. He also, in this meeting, said that he thought Mr. Hopper intended on fire trucks and ambulances being able to use the 10-foot wide pedestrian pathway that you suggested. I was at that meeting. You never said anything like that. You never implied anything like that. You never hinted at anything like that. Once again, what I heard was a lie. Very much so. The ordinance says no vehicular traffic. Am I right about that? Gabe asked this question: is a fire truck a vehicle? Then he answered his own question and he said, I don't know. Well, I think a fire truck's a vehicle. And so what they wanted to do is extend the road up to the property line, extend our road to the property line on the other side, put temporary barriers that will be removed because he made it clear that in the long-term, his long-term plans, that he wanted those barriers removed. So you guys were obviously disrespected. You obviously weren't listened to. And this is a disgrace to democracy as far as I see it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time?
Good evening, council members. members, Randy Gooden, 1157 Central Park Boulevard South, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. I just have a couple of asks tonight. The park along Wurstville Road, right before you get to 31 and 84 Lumber. If the Parks Department could give that some attention, I don't know if you've driven by it lately, but it's very overgrown inside the pond area. And I know it's often neglected. I can't even use the park name because it's never had an official sign put up to call it by name. But it's becoming a bit of an eyesore and a concern down through there. And I would like to ask the council and the city leadership's help with trying to retain neighbors in my neighborhood. And what I mean by that, and I've often stood before you and talked about the noise that's generated from the Circle K next to us, which is not abiding by the rules that they agreed to when they stood before you, including agreement that they would not empty their trash containers until after 8 a.m. on a given morning. They're often there at 4 or 5 a.m. And
Right.
we'll say, well, why does that matter? I have lost
That's like-
neighbors catty corner from me because their child could not sleep due to the noise. They had a young child. They had to move because that child could not sleep. The neighbors across from them are having difficulty and they're getting ready to move for many of the same reasons. They can't homeschool their autistic child because there's so much noise behind them. The lady just to the north of me in the same addition just sold her home and moved to Edinburgh because people from the surrounding communities and often from the gas stations are cutting the yards. They are urinating in the back of our yards. They were defecating on her porch. And it's just become such a nuisance. I really don't want to go to the point where we file a nuisance lawsuit against that company. So before we get to that stage, I would like to ask the city leadership if there's anything that we can do to either better control what is going on at that facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. All right, anybody else?
Hi, it's James Workman again, and I forgot to give you my address when I talked earlier. 1474 Lang Court, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. Easiest thing you've heard all night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, anybody else? All right, moving on, council, miscellaneous business. We have some conflicts of interest. Read one, do one at a time. Can we do them all?
Christopher Rosetto, crew leader in the street department. His spouse Sabrina has earnings as administrative assistant, and correspondingly, we have Sabrina, whose husband works as crew leader for the street department. So they're both employed by the city. Hannah Hamilton, office manager of CES, for her spouse Shane, who works as a truck driver laborer with the city, and corresponding Shane, whose wife is Hannah, who works as the office manager for CES.
All right, we have a motion, Mr. Hopper, to accept these. And we have a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Mr.
Williams online.
I'm sorry, yes. Mr. Williams is online. Roll call on accepting these conflicts of interest.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship. Aye. Williams.
Aye.
Petron. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
And Bill.
All these are accepted on a vote of 8-0. Anything else from the council? All right, other miscellaneous business, Corporation Council?
I have nothing.
Mr. Controller, just for, I would encourage all of you that are here to stay and listen to the budget presentations. But if you wish to leave, that would be a good time. So we do thank you for coming tonight, but budget presentations are important to the council, to the city. So I would encourage you to stay. You are welcome to leave.
I've got a presentation. That's half of it. Good evening, back for our annual one time. I do need to address one item. I did send an email out to everybody earlier this afternoon. Legal department informed me there were a couple of typos on the original salary ordinance that went out. Since there's no action tonight, I can put this into the record through reading it out, and then it will be corrected for your official budget for first reading. All the items for correction were under the CDS department. One of the changes under GIS technician, the number of positions is changing from 2 to 1. For permit technician administrative support, we're adding 1 position. The position was not filled in previously. The split on the fund for the GIS technician is also changing between how it's divided from stormwater and sanitation based on the work they're doing. And then finally, we're changing the asterisk under the part-time planner position to say not more than an average of 25 hours per week. Previously, it said maximum of 25 hours per week. That's just being more accurate in the way they utilize that position. So we'll jump in here to the 2025 budget. As always, we try to reflect the current state of the economy. One of the things that we have to address this year continues to be inflation. I think for everybody that came to any of our budget hearings with the department heads, that was something that we tried to make sure that we're covering and looking at with each of them as supplies and services from outside vendors tend to be trending upwards across the board. Our interest earnings from cash and investments are up pretty significantly so far this year. We currently have over $50 million invested in treasuries. Right now, I am predicting that income to remain flat for 2025. If something changes with the Fed's meeting later this month, I will change that before I come to see you again in October. Once again, we will be utilizing our economic development income tax to support the police and fire salaries. Our net assessed values are up by nearly 8% over current year. We are up over $4 billion for the first time, just over 4.2 in fact. Public safety remains a priority of the administration and a big driver of our budget, which you'll see as we get deeper into this. We are proposing a cost of living adjustment for our employees of 4% this year. The perf rate for police and fire is going up. It's going up 1.1%. So there will now be 20% of the first class firefighter or first class patrolman salary that is contributed to perf. Our anticipated health insurance expenditures are going up by 14.43%, but this is based on estimates from our health insurance provider based on current numbers. The actual premiums will be based on where we are when we get to the renewal in April. So this is not speaking to what anybody's premiums are going. This is an estimate of where they think our overall costs may be going. The police department will be investing in some new technology this year. We're looking to purchase a drone, and we'll be training 4 police officers as drone pilots and creating a premium pay for that. We'll be utilizing bond proceeds this year. Two of the items we're looking to purchase with that will be fire engines. We had 2 on order with Seagraves. They were not going to be delivered until 2027, potentially 2028. We found a new vendor that can deliver in 2025, so we'll be switching to that. Our property tax growth this year has been limited by state statute to 4%. If they were doing the normal calculation, we would actually be closer to 5.5%. So that limitation is there. I would encourage everybody to keep an eye on the proceedings of the General Assembly as we go into next year. There's been a summer study commission on property taxes and taxes in general that may generate some changes for us. So you'll want to keep an eye on that, and I'll try to keep you all updated as I hear anything. So with that growth quotient plus the associated funds, which is your financial institution tax, auto excise, and commercial vehicle excise taxes, we're looking at an increase dollar-wise of around $730,000. Our current max levy is right around 18 million. We are also proposing a levy appeal. We qualify again this year for a 3-year growth appeal. We would be qualified for up to $1.287 million. What we would like to do is to expand the squad that we have currently operating from Station 91. This is 2 firefighters that roll out in an SUV rather than rolling an engine on some of the EMS and non-fire type calls. So this is actually saving us a lot of money on fuel and wear and tear on those engines for calls that don't require or need that engine to be present. So we're seeing some real savings there and some benefits to the department. To expand that program to a second station for 24 hours, that would take an additional 6 individuals, plus the vehicle, equipment, training, etc. Based on our net assessed value growth, though, we would not see an increase to the tax rate. In fact, with the proposed bond and the proposed levy appeal, we would still maintain our tax rate, which is currently slightly over 67 cents per $100 assessed value. The bond we're proposing, it will be replacing the bond that we issued last year. We also have the final payment of the fire truck bond that was issued in 2015. It will occur in January of next year, so that will be rolling off. There's no levy in 2025 for that. So we have a couple things rolling off bond-wise. One of the reasons we want to make sure we keep our rate relates to the way that income taxes, FIT, auto excise, and CVET are determined. It is all based on your proportion of the total county property taxes. So if our proportion falls, so does our piece of the local income tax, the FIT, the auto excise, etc. I did want to give you a comparison, just a little knowledge based on some of our neighbors' current tax rates, our current tax rate, and then there's one city up there that is similar in size to us. You'll see that while we have a population of 64,000 and a tax levy of 25.6 million, our rate is only 67 cents. In Franklin, they have $16 million levy, 25,000 individuals live there, and their rate is over $1.07. The highest in the county for municipalities is the Edinburgh rate at 222. If you look at Noblesville, they're the city closest to us in population. They have 72,000 residents. Their levy is more than double ours. Their rate is $1.10. Some of our other similar type neighbors, Plainfield, their levy is slightly higher than ours. They have a population of about 20,000 less, but their rate is still higher than ours. So from a tax rate perspective, the city of Greenwood is maintaining a low rate for their residents. Overview-wise, this just kind of all the steps I intend to go through. Tends to be the same process year to year. We start with meeting with the mayor and deputy mayor, set some priorities, then meeting with our departments. Several of you sat in with us through those meetings. I do appreciate you being with us. I put together the preliminary budgets and then also the revenue budgets, and then prepare a presentation for the mayor based on that to determine what we believe we can afford in salary increases. And then once that's finalized, I bring that here. And here we are. We will then go into our first and second readings next month and hopefully adoption of the budget. You can see here. I will point out we do have a couple of statutory deadlines. The October 26th submission deadline, that is based on 5 days after adoption. That is a state guideline. And then the actual complete adoption deadline is November 1st. So all budgets as well as salary ordinances must be adopted and submitted to the state by November 1st. Our approach has been to empower our department heads through priority-based budgeting. That is why we meet with all of them, with each individual department, and try to go through what are their needs, what are the things that they cannot operate without before we start talking about salary increases. We need to know what do we have to fund to make sure that we can operate.
We look at our capital investments. We look at inflation. That's something we talk about throughout the process. We look for ways to create any opportunities of efficiency. Then we look at what's our cash balances. Can we spend some of that down? Do we need to spend some of that down? And then trying to make sure that whatever our operating balance or operating needs are, we can afford it with the money that's coming in. I'll show that to you as we get through this presentation, but basically the operating needs are the things that happen every year. I want to be sure that the money we have coming in funds that so that there's not a concern ever of spending our cash down and running out at some point. So that'll be something that I'll show you later on. Our 4 pillars were mentioned earlier this evening in a different presentation. That is our public safety, infrastructure, economic development, quality of life. The 5th one, which is more of an internal pillar, is our operational excellence. That is looking for ways to save money, to do things better, to do things faster, more efficiently. It's a breakdown of our 2025 budget. You can see that public safety is the largest percentage of that budget, 33.8%. Health insurance continues to be a big part of that budget, just over 7%. That 7% actually does include the police department's piece of the health insurance because it is paid from the general fund. So that's where that is captured. We are proposing 4% cost of living increases for full-time positions. We're looking in the police department to add 3 total new positions. 2 of those will be probationary officers. 1 will be a civilian position. It is a public relations officer and grant writer position. There's actually an individual who will be retiring later on that we are hoping will fill that position. We are budgeting for 6 probationary firefighters. We've applied for a SAFER grant, which would give us a 75% reimbursement on those, but that is a very competitive national federal grant. We will know before the end of this month if we get it. If we don't, we will need that levy appeal to fund those 6. Without one of those, we do not have the funding to get those firefighters to then create that squad for the 2nd station. We are looking to add a full-time recreation assistant in parks as they've expanded their programs. They are needing another position. I believe we'll be converting somebody who is part-time to a full-time. One of our GIS technician positions is being changed to a CityWorks administrator. This is the program, the software that we use to do all of our GIS work. We do all of our tracking for any of the work done by the street department, the sanitation, stormwater, pretty much everything that's done is tracked through that. All of our permits are tracked through that. So that software is growing pretty large for us. So we do need somebody who is specifically able to manage that for the city. You may be aware that we have outsourced our IT services to a company called Exos. So there are 5 positions that were removed from the budget. You'll see that when we get into the departmental budgets. You'll also see that we will have year-over-year comparisons within that. You'll see some of our CIP items, that's our capital. We're looking to use the bond proceeds, the 2 fire engines I discussed, some dump trucks, pickups with plows, a mini excavator for the street department, the gun range. There's some additional bulletproofing needed, as well as some sidewalk replacements and paving projects. We're looking at funding with that. We've taken out one-time items from the prior year, as well as I discussed, trying to keep things balanced for our operational budget. So operating budget estimate is 67.9 million, capital 1.6, and then the revenue projection 68 million. So that 68 million more than funds that operating budget. So we know that we will be able to continue from year to year to fund that. That is the main purpose of trying to balance those 2. The reason I don't include capital in that is because capital generally tends to be a one-time expense. And if for some reason in a year we can't afford to fund some of that capital, usually you can put it on hold and be okay. So now we'll get ready here to go through the actual budgets per department. I'm gonna kind of provide a tutorial on how to see these online for everyone as we go through. Most of the department heads are here in the audience in case there are specific questions that I don't have the answers to. So, Mark, I've got the website pulled up on another tab, if you wouldn't mind bringing that up and sharing it. So on the city website, that is www.greenwood.in.gov. Under the city departments, there is a finance department webpage. It's the bottom one there, Mark. Yep, that's the one. So on this webpage, about halfway down on the right-hand side, you'll see in the blue highlight there, annual budgets and the 2025 proposed budget summaries. So anyone can access this at any time and see the budgets that we are proposing for all of our departments. Let's go through this basically in the order on the agenda, starting with the PD. Here, click on that. The top of the page describes the department and then a summary of changes. This one, we are proposing a 6.2% salary adjustment for the full-time police officers. This will bring up the pension base for those officers to just over $78,000 per year. In our discussions with the department, the request was to go to 80. We did not have the funding to get there, but we did want to get as close as we could. We felt this was a compromise that we could manage to fund. So that is where that is coming from. The two positions I mentioned for probationary as well as the civilian. The fuel budget, we've reduced that down. Our estimates per gallon, we've reduced that down based on what we're seeing currently in the market. We do have funding for the Axon interview room software licensing. Last year, that was the hardware purchase and the initial software setup. Now it's just a license, same for the virtual reality training. The other supplies line has increased based on some inflation items that the chief brought up to us. We do have several software licenses that are going up. There are multiple items in here. This is things like Lexipol, which they use for doing the policy creation and testing. This is Gray Key software. This is the Flock camera software. All those fall under that line item. And then the drone that I mentioned is also in there. The Police Merit Commission, bring that up, but there are no changes to the prior year's budget proposed. Then the pension, police pension, this budget is based on a calculation of the pensioners we have and the proposed increases to the first class officer salaries. So that number, we get reimbursed from the state every year for the prior year's amount. So when we talk about the budget balancing on this fund, we're always going to be a little bit upside down with that because we don't get the reimbursement until the following year. That's all funded through the cigarette taxes from the state. Next is the fire department. So the fire department here, you can see under summary of changes, the 4% cost of living adjustment, as well as adding those 6 positions we discussed, which we do need either the levy appeal or the grant to help fund. The perf increases, payroll taxes and the health insurance. I mentioned earlier, health insurance for the PD is funded through the general fund. Health insurance for the fire fund is not allowed to be funded through the general because of the difference in the tax base. We have a large chunk of the city's $740 million that does not pay into the Greenwood Fire Fund. They're under White River Township. So we cannot use any of the funds generated from those areas towards fire funds. That's why they have to pay for their health insurance costs directly from the fire fund. There were some increases in the supplies due to inflation. However, again, we did see a reduction in fuel costs based on the per gallon estimates. We had some repair maintenance items that are increasing our service and charges as well as utilities and the insurance on the apparatus. And then also capital outlays. In the past, we budgeted $30,000 a year for this. We raised it to 40 based on having the 4 stations, and as they age, there are more needs there for some of those repairs. Item I do want to show you on this. If you scroll to the bottom of any of these pages, you can actually see a breakdown of what makes up each individual line item within that budget. So here is the fire budget. You get the major classification, the account stream, that's for my accounting system, you probably don't care about that, what it's paying for, and then the amount here on the right. So as you scroll through those, you can see all of those different items, all the way down through supplies, through service and charges, capital, etc. And that appears on all of the different budgets. If a department has budget lines in multiple funds, you'll also see that there at the bottom in those line items. Rainy day redevelopment and economic development. So rainy day, we have nothing planned to spend out of there. So far this year, we are on track in rainy day to generate about $100,000 in interest earnings. So I'm assuming another $100,000 in interest earnings there for next year. But we do not currently plan to spend that as we've not run into that rainy day yet. Redevelopment Commission, this is just their general fund budget. So this is the commission members, payments, office supplies, the legal counsel, and their financial advisor budget. None of that is anticipated to change. Economic development, there was an adjustment to promotional expenditures based on the 3-year spending. That's the only change to that budget. Next on here is the aviation budget. So under aviation, again, you'll see this on most of these. Any of these funds that pays for salaries, you're going to see this 4% cost of living. Supplies, basically, were increased slightly for operating supplies. That's again an inflationary measure. Services and charges, utilities are going up. We've received notices from Duke about anticipated increases for next year, as well as knowing that the other utilities are trending upwards, so we built that in. We do have a larger line item in there for the AIP grants. We're in the final stages of the apron expansion. So this is the matching portion, the airport's portion of that grant. We will be spending down a piece of their cash on hand. Currently, they have just under $1 million cash on hand. We'll be spending that down this year. I anticipate we will regenerate that pretty quickly. Our fuel sales have been very strong out there, and we've been hovering around a 30% reserve this year, slightly creeping up. So I don't have any qualms on that. Spending down in a single year a bit. Next on our agenda is the human resources budget. Again, the 4%. The drug testing supplies, they've been going up, and then we are also doing more hiring as we've added the new sports park, as we're having more people for part-time and seasonal type positions, as we're hiring more full-timers. So we are needing more of those supplies, and they are getting more expensive. Services and charges, though, are remaining the same. My department's budget here, 4%. I did decrease our supplies budget because that has not all been used previously. The cost of our audits is increasing. As they become more complex, it takes longer to get done, they get more expensive. The preparation of our annual comprehensive financial report is in there, as well as the software licensing for our accounting software. Our utility billing software is in partially here, partially in the utility billing, because we use it for creating the annual report. You'll also see when we get into the human capital funds, there is a line for a software to help with tracking our debt, capital leases, and subscription services. That is part of our annual compliance requirements that we need to report on. It provides both documentation for internal auditors and also a public-facing portal for transparency. The IT budgets, this one does have some significant changes. As I talked about, we did remove personal services. Now that we are outsourcing, however, you'll see growth in the services and charges line where we added that outsourced contract. We did decrease some of the supplies items based on what we needed in the past. The email archiver payment, this is year 3, or this is the first year of the 3-year term, 2025 is, so we'll need to pay for that. Some upgrades to software, and then the page freezer. As we've expanded our social media presence and some of our other online presence, there's more that has to be retained. So we did have to increase that. So that's why you do see growth in that budget. Word Public Works, the biggest one in here is that the health insurance and all of the PERF and all of the taxes for the city departments all run through this, other than fire, aviation, and utilities. So that is seeing increases. The biggest one, of course, being the health insurance. The other changes, you've got the FICA, Medicare, PERF based on adding staff. Increases to our life and unemployment insurance premiums. Part of that is inflation, part of that is adding staff. Increases to utilities, we talked about that. We know that electricity particularly is going up. We're adding a lot of stoplights, a lot of street lights. All of those contribute to that line. You'll see a line item in here for transferring the lit funds, part of them to the fire fund. This is because of something the State Board of Accounts requires. Used to be we could just dedicate it directly to that fund. Now you have to put it in the general fund and then transfer it. So we need to document that we're doing that. Legal. We've got the 4% cost of living, supplies are unchanged. We do have, one of the assistant city attorneys is under contract rather than employee of the city. That has gone up slightly. And then also a slight increase to the LexisNexis subscription line. That is their online database. That was fairly minimal increase. The mayor's office, I believe the only increases we have are the cost of living, and then the dues for the U.S. Conference of Mayors went up slightly. Council budget, we've got a 2% increase in wages for the council. There is also a line in there for the weather station maintenance that the Johnson County Community Foundation has requested us to help with. So that may be something that we're looking at in 25. So we built that line in here in case we do decide to go with that next year. That was Mr. Campbell's proposal. To Parks and Recreation. This generally falls under the pillar of quality of life. The Parks and Recreation is funded from 2 funds. Their operating fund, which is a property tax supported fund, and then also the food and beverage fund, which that was based on the state statute that gave us the opportunity to have the food and beverage. So we are able to fund some of the parks through that and then utilize those property taxes elsewhere. So you can see under here, we actually have both funds documented as to the changes. We've got the cost of living adjustments, the full-time position added, some part-time positions that they're looking to add, particularly relating to the sports park openings. Also reduced the capital outlays for the sports park security cameras because those were funded last year. There are some additional funding items for the sports park that we're looking at this year, including some temporary fencing. Allows us to do different levels of tournament play based on the age groups, so you can shrink the field for some of the younger age groups. Out of their food and beverage fund, we fund all of the supplies, all the services and charges, and a chunk of the capital. You'll see increases for operating supplies at the sports park because we're gonna have our first full year next year. Inflation based on utilities specifically, as well as some of the other supplies. But we did remove one of the one-time supply item purchases, which was for the sports park to get operational. Services and charges, that's where our utilities are. We're looking at doing some pump motor replacements at Freedom Springs. I believe we are now over 10 years old out there. So we're keeping up with the maintenance, keeping that facility in good shape so that we can keep it operating and keep it looking good for the future. There are some upgrades looked at for the community center, additional vehicle leases, credit card processing fees as we've expanded our services at the sports park, having concessions there. As we have more people attending the Freedom Springs and utilizing the credit cards there, our fees are increasing slightly. That is actually picked up within the fees for utilizing those facilities though, so we do get an offsetting revenue line. And then the health insurance, the Parks Fund does reimburse the general fund for their health insurance. Some of the one-time items were removed, and we are looking next year to replace cardio equipment at the community center and also the tennis courts at Westside Park, and also some parking lots, repaving, and potentially some full-depth reclamations out there at Westside, Northwest, and Craig. That'll be determined when we do our annual paving project. We're going to try to put that in there. The Parks Department fund that portion. So fleet maintenance, the biggest part of the fleet maintenance budget is in the general fund, but they also get some funding from the utilities, also from Parks and Rec, as they are utilized by all of those different departments. 4% cost of living. Vehicle repair parts, that's an inflationary thing, and then also the addition of more vehicles means more parts that are having to be replaced. And then the licensing for the diagnostic software is increasing next year. So that's going up. Street department. As we're going through this, if there are specifics you have questions on, stop me. If you want me to give you any more guidance on how to utilize it later, please let me know. MVH, the MVH fund is funded by a couple of different sources. We get the county wheel tax, we get some gas tax distribution, half of which must go to reconstruction and repair of roads specifically. It cannot go to salaries, it cannot go to sidewalks, it has to go to specific repair and replacement of roads. So we have, under the other services and charges, last year, the street department reimbursed 100% of their health insurance from this fund to the general fund. Based on declining gas tax revenues, we are cutting that reimbursement down to 50%. So the general fund will be subsidizing the other 50% simply because with the increasing costs for other things, it wasn't possible to do 100% reimbursement there. We've also shifted some of their costs out to the LRS fund. The LRS fund is specifically funded through another gas tax. That one is limited. It cannot be spent for anything related to salaries. It has to be supplies, services, charges, or capital. So that is what we use it for. We were able to lower some of our fuel expenditures again, as we've seen in multiple departments. And then the uniform costs were moved over. Community development services budgets in the general fund. Got the 4%. We did reallocate, as I mentioned, the GIS tech and project manager. That one was correct in the salary ordinance. Supplies were increased or were decreased due to the fuel estimate per gallon going down. We did remove the asset management plan update this year. That one happens every 2 years, so it'll be back on there in the 2026 budget. but it did come off for this year, so there is a slight decline there. So under the clerk's office, clerk has two funds, the general fund piece, and then also the clerk's record perpetuation fund. So under the general fund, it's just got the 4% to the cost of living adjustment. All the other line items remain the same. And then under the record perpetuation fund, some of the assistant in that department is funded out of there, as well as some of the part-time. So that has that increase there. Part of that fund also belongs to the court, which they asked to utilize a portion to purchase a sound mixer for the amplification equipment used in the court. Then the city court does have its general fund allocation. We've got the 4% cost of living. The supplies remain the same, and then there was a decrease in services and charges. We went through with the judge and basically went item to item in there, and were able to reduce some as they've changed some of their processes over there, found some things to be unnecessary. The adult probation fund, this one has quite a bit of change. We do have the 4% cost of living with the PERF and FICA, longevity and health. There was one position that is unfilled and will not be filled. And then we were also able to reduce their services and charges. A big part of that is based on the revenues. Those revenues have been trending down over the last several years. We weren't able to maintain the level of spending that fund was doing based on those revenues. So we'll continue to review those with the judge as we go through the next year and see whether those start trending back or whether we need to look at that and look at making some more changes there. But that'll be done in conjunction with Judge Foster. Finally, the capital and debt service funds. The debt funds down here, they're all lumped under one entry. I do not have the debt service for the proposed GO bond yet because we don't have the calculation on what that payment will be yet. It will be somewhere in the vicinity of $4 million. We don't have the exact number yet nailed down. Working with Adam Stone on that right now. But as I mentioned, we did have a couple that are rolling off. Under the Cume Capital funds, we've got our Cume Capital Development Fund. This fund has a tax rate of 5 cents per $100 in assessed value. We have several different software licenses that run through this fund. The Verizon Air Cards for the police department and fire department. So this is for any of the computers that are within vehicles. They have these Verizon Air Cards. As we add vehicles, we need to add more of those. Repair and maintenance costs, a lot of that is related to streetlights as we've added them and as we're having people hitting them, as we're having wear and tear on them, we're needing to do more repairs. We did have a couple of lease payments for vehicles that have rolled off of there, so that does offset some of those costs. And then we removed several one-time costs from last year's budget off of that. Cigarette tax fund. This is pretty much the same as last year. Most of it is considered flex budget in this fund, except for we did add a line item for some Samsara fleet GPS telematics units. These go in the vehicles. They help the fleet department basically determine if there are any issues with them, keeps track of mileage, gas mileage, when oil changes are due, when all the services are due, and hopefully we'll see some return on those. This is something that we're test driving and hoping will be beneficial across the city. So that's going to come out of that fund though for the first year. And then the CCI rate, this has a rate of 3.18 cents per $100 assessed value. Most of what's in here relates to either insurance or software. We did see increases in the software costs, as well as we are anticipating insurance premium increases. We don't renew until April, so our broker was able to just give us a ballpark based on what he's seen in the market now. He says to expect at least 10%, so that's what we built in. If our claims are lower, we may see something lower than that, but based on current, when I talked to him in July, that's where he suggested we budget. Finally, for everybody's edification, I do have the proposed geo bonds I discussed. That's the fire engines, the trucks, the mini excavator, etc. As you go down this page, there are a couple items that may be of interest. We do have the utility budgets on here. The council's not required to review or vote on those, but they are there should you care to take a look. The boards that oversee those will be required to vote on those budgets. We do have the revenue estimates for all of the funds, so you can drill down into those revenue estimates, look at any of the things that you may be interested there. Got a link to the PowerPoint I did earlier this evening. Got a link to the budget work papers, which is all the backup documentation. I'm additionally creating a large print summary that I know we've used in the past. A lot of people like to have that printer-friendly version, so we'll work that up and make that available to everyone as well. That concludes what I've got. Anyone has questions?
Any questions for Mr. Wright?
I have a question, and that's just, the only thing that I have a question about is the fire department and why their rates stayed the same as everybody else's. I know that Chief Washington went and talked to you about that, so I'm just curious as to what happened with that conversation.
That determination came from the administration based on what we had available funding wise. Additionally, I would point out a couple of things that in 2019, the fire department salaries were increased above the police department salaries to accommodate the medic pay not being a specialty pay. We just added that in, so there was an increase there. Additionally, that then put that onto their pension base, which was positive. But we didn't have any complaints then from the police officers that they were being paid less. Additionally, the fire department has built-in OT. They get approximately $6,000 of built-in OT with the 24-hour schedule. That doesn't occur with the PD. So from a balance-wise, we felt that making the distinction between the two was fair.
Any other questions for Mr. Wright? I just want to say that I attended several of the budget meetings and I appreciate the work that department heads and your staff put into this. And I want to thank many of the council who also were able to attend those meetings as well. So I think that's valuable for us. So I appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
And I'd like to say I commend you and those that have helped you with putting our budget together. I can remember 40-some years ago when the council would be still going at 10:30 and they would have like 4 nights of presentations by each of the department heads. So you've simplified it. You're giving us better information and specific information. Thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments from the council? All right, thank you, Mr. Wright, appreciate it. All right, and then for the mayor's office.
Nothing for the mayor's office.
All right, before we adjourn, if Mr. Taggart and Mr. St. John would mind waiting around just for a minute, I would request, so, thank you, and we are adjourned.